About half a year ago, I did a video on this, the Big Rock Sotia. Since then, I've built up 3 of these things, got a couple of thousand kilometers on it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you more, my thoughts, after more experience with it. This bike that you see here is 5.9 kilos with pedals, bottle cages, GPS mount, all that stuff. And this is the exact bike I took to America, took to Sea Otter, raced around Laguna Seca, hung out with a vegan cyclist, all that stuff. So in this video, I'm going to let you know what I think about the bike, but spoiler alert, it rips.
This beat goes stupid. Stupid.
This beat goes stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, just got back after that ride and now we can start talking about the Sotia. So what do I like about the Sotia? I think I like it because it's a very pure bike. You know, you got round tube profiles, you got a normal 27.2mm seat post in there. Everything's just kind of like traditional, for lack of a better word. And what I like about that is you can kind of build it up any way you want, right? So if you have an aero bike and then you put skinny climbing tires on it, it always looks a bit weird, but I feel climbing bikes or traditional bikes like this, you can build them up with aero wheels or skinny wheels and it always looks fine. And the same with the cockpit, right? So if you've got an aero bike, I always feel like a bar and stem looks a bit weird. But when you've got a climbing bike like this, I think, you can put a separate bar and stem on there, or you can go integrated and it always just looks like it works. If you're watching this video, you're probably a bike nerd who knows exactly how you like your bikes and you like building your bike yourself. The T47 bottom bracket in here will help you with that as well, because obviously not everyone likes doing press fit at home. T47 is a lot easier to do at home. Also, you don't have to worry about the brand messing up the tolerances. It all just works. I also appreciate that there's 2 versions of the frame. So there's a standard layup version that comes out under $1,200 US. That's the frame, the fork, even the seat post and all the accessories and stuff. So really affordable, in a time where Chinese frames are getting more and more expensive, a sub $1,200 frame is a bargain. The regular version is around 780 grams, so still very light for a frame. Most of these all-round frames are usually around the 1,000 gram mark, so you're having 200 grams off that as a climbing frame. However, if you are obsessed with weight and cutting off all the weight you can, there is a Team Edition, which is this one that I have here. The Team Edition is using Mitsubishi carbon fiber, the equivalent of T1100 or whatever, and this thing weighs in at just 680 grams. And that's 680 grams with the paint and with the accessories like the derailleur hangers. Lots of brands these days, they say, oh, my frame's only 699 grams, but that's excluding paint and excluding accessories. So this thing, the frame with paint, with accessories, 680 grams. Now, one caveat, that is my size. Obviously, I ride smaller frames. This is an XS frame, but if you go up to a medium frame, that adds around 30, 40 grams. So you're still gonna be super light. Obviously, all that high modulus carbon fiber does cost more. So the cost on this one is $1,668. But for a sub 700 gram frame, I think that's still pretty crazy. Usually sub 700 gram frames, you're talking about the likes of the Athos S-Works, which is, a $3,000, $4,000 frame or whatever. So that's the frame itself. I actually have 3 of these built as bikes right now. So yeah, let's pop outside and I'll show you all 3 bikes. Okay, so first things first, let's get the important stuff out of the way. How heavy is this one? Let's have a quick look. So 5.94 kilos, I think that's impressive. Last year I made a sub 6 kilo bike, but number 1, that was without pedals, and number 2, that had to use Ultegra and 25mm tires and everything. This thing is 5.94 kilos with L2 group set and with 28 tires, so pretty impressive. This bike I actually took to Sea Otter. This is the bike I took to America back in May and raced around Sea Otter. I built this bike up a day before I had my plane or whatever, so it was a bit of a rush job. I thought I'll walk you through the bike today, the components I used in it, the choices that went into it, and stuff like that. Okay, so at the heart of the build, we have the Big Rock Sotia frame set. This is the Team Edition, so this is the creme de la creme, T1100 carbon fiber, all that jazzy stuff. Like I said, 680, 690 grams for this frame, including paint, including accessories, which is what a lot of people don't include, but that was included in this. This frame set, around $1,700, but when you're getting something that weighs about the same as an S-Works Athos, that's not too bad. Rest of the build, so the seat post is one that comes with the frame, the Big Rock seat post. It's a nice 27.2 one, so you can swap that as well. Again, if you want to save some money from this build, I could probably swap this out for an even lighter seat post. Up on the top, we have the MVMT saddle. This thing's 63 grams. I've got it on a few of my bikes now. For me, super comfortable and obviously super light. Cockpit wise, so like I said, this is the bike I took to Sea Otter, so I wanted a bike that was easy to travel with. I wanted to just take my bike in a cardboard box. I flew United, and their rules, you weren't allowed to have a box that was bigger than 210 centimeters on any angle, so I wanted it to just fit in a normal cardboard box, and so that meant I had to have handlebars which are easy to remove. So I went for bar and stem, non-integrated, with the cables on the outside, and that means I can just take off the stem and put the handlebars down here. It goes in the box super nice, didn't have to worry about that. Obviously you could put an integrated bar and stem on here if you weren't going to travel, but for me I wanted this as like a lightweight traveling bike. So yeah, the cockpit is the EXS stem. So this stem is actually an unreleased stem, but I've got one on here like doing some testing and stuff. The handlebar is the R175. As the name suggests, like 175 gram handlebar, but it's also got a bit of an aero profile to it as well, because obviously we know you do have to still think about aero. Just 36 centimeters wide, so some of my bikes use 34 bars, but as this is a climbing bike, I like to have a bit more leverage, so I went for 36s. So that's the cockpit setup up there. So shifters, front, rear derailleur, the whole group set is the L2 Blue Edition, L2 ERX Blue Edition. Again, unreleased. I was using this as a test bed for it, but I threw this on the bike and flew to America, and this was my only bike. So if it went wrong, I was in trouble. And I'm happy to say it was flawless for the whole time I was in America, and ever since then as well in Italy. It's not put a foot wrong. So yeah, L2 seems to be getting more and more reliable these days. The wheels, I'm not going to talk too much about the wheels today because they're still unreleased, they're still being tested, but these are sub 1,000 gram wheels, like 920, 930 gram wheels. They're not hookless, they're not tubular, none of that cheating stuff. This is just proper hooked clinchers. As you can see, I've got the Ride Now TPU tubes in there and 28 mil high road SL tires on there. So like I say, I'll have more news about these wheels in the future, but just a pure climber's wheel. None of that aero schmero, just yeah, get it light and get up the hill. Bottle cages, the Percheron C10 bottle cages, like I said, 8-9 grams each, so a pair of those on there as well. Crankset, of course, has to be the Cybre crankset, super lightweight, 165 mil cranks, all carbon chain rings, and XKD power meter on there to give me my power numbers. Cassette is the InColor Zoni 12-speed cassette. Again, another super light 200 gram-ish cassette, keeping the weight of the whole build down. And yeah, that's about the build. Like I said, I just finished a ride on this today. The past few days I've been riding this again. I've been getting some super steep climbs on it, like 15, 20, 25% climbs. And yeah, it's a crazy, crazy bike. Like out of the saddle, the feeling on this bike is like nothing else. It kind of reminds me of Super 6 Evos from back in the day, or like CAD 10s, like that kind of feeling. Like very, very stiff front and rear end. And also on the downhills, just, you know, able to really track a line around the corners and stuff. Obviously these super light wheels are helping it get up to speed and all that stuff, but in general, yeah, this is a really, really fun bike to ride. I describe this as a disc brake bike for people who don't like disc brake bikes. It's when you're riding it, you feel like you're riding a proper rim brake climbing bike of old. So yeah, props to Big Rock on the development of this, and yeah, I've been enjoying this one. So this build is one of my colleagues' bikes here at Panda Podium. This is more of a modest build. Like I say, mine uses the Team Edition, like the 680 gram version. This is just the regular edition. I think this one weighed in like 760 grams to the frame, but obviously this is an XXS. I think this frame in general is about 100 and 150 grams heavier than the Team Edition, but it's a lot more affordable. This frame set is like $1,199 or whatever, so that's pretty crazy value. That includes the seat post as well. The accessories you get with these frames, very impressive, like all sorts of different caps for different handlebars, different routing options, all that stuff, so very cool. But yeah, I'll quickly go over this build. This build's like 7.4 kilos, but the cost of this build is super budget friendly. So we've got Big Rock's own handlebars, we've got 9 Velours wheels, we've got the Magine PES 505 base power meter, we've got L2 R9 mechanical. So this whole build here is probably like around a $2,500, $3,000 build. Super, super cool for a 7.4 kilo bike. Okay, this build you last saw in my Evigors video, the video about the e-bike conversion kit, because yeah, this Big Rock set here is now an e-bike. So yeah, it's got the e-bike conversion kit on there. That gives it like an extra 300 watts on demand and basically turns me into a climbing monster. But yeah, this one, again, another one built with the regular edition frame set, not the Team Edition. L2 ERX, the black edition, just a normal cheap handlebar and stem combo. Wheels, I've had lots of different wheels on here, but at the moment it's the Evigors e-bike wheels. But yeah, at the moment this is just one of those lazy days or a camera bike we use this as, just because you can keep up with everyone else because you've got 300 watts. But yeah, just another way you can build this bike up. That's what I like about these like traditional kind of bike frames where you've got round seat posts and a pretty round normal flat head tube. You can basically just build the bike up into whatever you want. A bar and stem or integrated, any kind of seat seat post you want, any wheels, anything. So yeah, I like these simple frame sets quite a lot. So how do they ride? I think it goes without saying that like a 5.9 kilo bike is going to climb very well, especially when you're out the saddle, especially when it's steep, especially when you're giving it the beans. You're like rocking the bike side to side, you really notice the weight or the lack thereof. One thing that was surprising for me though, like you expect a super light frame to be super noodly, but this thing isn't. I think there's two things to that. Number one is the tube profiles they're using. So especially this down tube, it's like this oval shape, which is obviously not great for aero because it's a big blunt object facing the wind, but great for stiffness and keeping the seat post and the head tube like on the same axis. And the second thing I think they've got going for them is just that high modulus carbon fiber. You know, it lets you go lighter but keeps stiffness. Maybe strength is less, but stiffness is still there. As for descending, it's not the best, it's not the worst, it just kind of does what it's supposed to do, goes down hills with no drama. When I'm riding this one here with the 900 gram wheels, it is very nimble, or some would say twitchy when turning into corners, just because you've got basically zero gyroscopic effect on the wheels. Just something you have to get used to, doesn't make or break the deal. On the flats, when you are going above 30 k's an hour, 40 k's an hour, you do notice the aero or lack thereof a bit. I was riding this with some of the guys from our UCI Conti team yesterday. They're all big, powerful guys, you know, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, there's some sections where we're hauling along, and whenever I was on the front on this, like, yeah, you definitely notice the lack of aero, but maybe that's more lack of my legs. One other thing that Big Rock need a thumbs up for is just the build quality on these. In my last video, I kind of went into it that, you know, when Tom was building up the original black one, he was really impressed with the build quality. Since then, we've built up two more. We built up the white one and we built up this one. And yeah, all of them exactly the same. Great quality. The facing on the brake caliper mount surfaces, all that stuff is super nice attention to detail. The threads, super clean. Yeah, just nothing to complain about. One last piece of consumer advice, the buyer beware, all that stuff. The usual suspect on AliExpress. So, because Big Rock aren't very well known in the West, this is like perfect pickings for scammers or whatever, because no one knows how much they're supposed to cost. So I saw on AliExpress, there was one shop called Shop 11034304000 store, who was selling these for apparently like $488. Yeah, as usual, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I saw the listing on AliExpress for the $488 one. I scrolled down, it said 2 have been sold, and in the comments there was a guy just saying like, oh yeah, the 2 that have been sold were both me, and the seller just ghosted me, and he had to go to AliExpress to get the refund. So yeah, buyer beware, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But again, this is the whole reason why I started pandapodium.cc, a website to get all of these lesser known Chinese products, the good products, and put them in a place where you get reputable service. No one's going to ghost you, no one's going to scam you, none of that stuff. So yeah, we've had both the regular edition and the team edition on the website for a few months at this point. Sold a few, no complaints from customers. I think one guy put his customer review up there and gave it a 5-star review. So yeah, a couple of happy customers riding around on Big Rock Sotiers. But yeah, this isn't a big hard sell or anything. If you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. But if you do have any other questions about this, you can head over to pandapodium.cc, ask my team there, and they'll get back to you as well. But also in the first video I did on the Big Rock, I asked if anyone had any questions for this review, and there are a few questions, so I think this is a good time to go through those now. So yeah, first question was from Chad Conley 454. He asked, any chance the 700 by 30 clearance rating is conservative? I'm interested, but pretty set on wanting my next frame to clear at least a 32. Good question. So I have 28s on here at the minute, with also on a super wide rim. I think the internal rim width on this is like 25 or 26. So these tires are already actually reading like 29 or 30 mil. I checked, I can get a 4 mil Allen key all around the tire in all the areas. So that's to say there's still 4 mil of clearance on there. So I reckon a 32 would go on there. Again, it's going to depend on who's 32, what pressure, the width of the rim, all this stuff. But 32, I'm pretty confident you'll be fine for most things. But yeah, any bigger than that, you're probably going to struggle. The next question I had was from a guy or gal called Waiting Shoe 8807. He said, hey Joe, what are your thoughts on their upcoming aero frame? Aha, glad you asked. Yeah, so one of the guys here at Pandapodium, Ben, he has the aero frame. He's been riding it for a few months now. All good feedback. Again, when we build it up, the build quality was the same as this one. I'm going to do a video on that. Maybe I'll get him to do the video on it. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's also on the website now because like I say, Ben's been riding it and he's more than happy with his. Next question was from a guy called Rick Patinama 5363. He asked, is there toe overlap on the small sizes? I get toe overlap on all my bikes. Yeah, I can't think of any of my bikes where I get zero toe overlap. Obviously I'm running XS, like size 49 centimeter frames, and yeah, toe overlap is always going to be a thing with 700C wheels. Is it any worse or less than other bikes? I had a quick measure. The pedals on this sit 1 centimeter closer to the tire than they do on my Tavello Attack. Now the Tavello Attack is technically a size small, and this is a size extra small, so it's not really apples to apples anyway. But yeah, smaller sizes, there is toe overlap, but I think you get toe overlap on all small size frames. So until the industry wakes up and starts giving 650C wheels as an option to smaller riders, yeah, we're stuck on it. And the last question was from a guy called EQ Forever. Basically, long story short, he's got a super lightweight Sika Exceed, 6.6 kilograms, yada, yada, yada. But he says when he goes downhill, it doesn't feel very stable and it always feels like it's going to flip out or whatever. I've not really noticed that on this, I wouldn't say so. I think when it's a lighter frame, you do kind of have, the frame is more like nimble beneath you. Obviously, you and the bike, if you have a heavier bike, essentially the center of gravity is going to go a bit lower. Whereas if you're on a lighter bike, the center of gravity goes a bit higher. Is that something you'd notice when you've got 60 kilo of rider and then just like 1 kilo off the bike here and there? I think it is something you can feel. I've not done the maths of, for me personally, how high or low the center of gravity is with different weight of bikes. But I imagine going from a 6 kilo bike to a 5 kilo bike, the center of gravity, center of mass goes down by, I'd guess, like less than 2 centimeters. So not a huge amount. But maybe in his example, the bike feeling like it wants to flip out from under him. Maybe it could be something with the bike not being stiff enough or something. Yeah, maybe try some different wheels, maybe try some different stuff. I'm not really sure. But yeah, for me personally, descending on this, not something I've noticed. Yeah, slightly higher center of gravity, but yeah, nothing else. But no, in general, been very, very impressed. Like I said, this is the very bike that I took to Sea Otter. It got thrown in the cardboard box, got thrown on United Airlines all around the country, from China to America and back again. No damage to the frame or anything, so it's not a super fragile frame either. It does seem to can take a bit of a beating. Again, it was perfect for its need. Having the cables run external was easy to put the bike in and out of the box. And a super nice light bike as well. So going up towards the Corkscrew and Laguna Seca, that climb was easier than a hefty, heavy bike. Another thing I love about this bike, especially with these wheels at the minute, is basically it's windproof. So these days in Xiamen, there's a typhoon just off the coast between here and Taiwan, and it makes for some very windy rides. We're riding literally along the beach yesterday, so super crazy winds, and on this thing, you never have to worry. Obviously for the climbs, it's perfect, a sub 6 kilo bike. For me personally, if I am going on a climber ride or going for some KOMs or something, I'm probably just going to take one of my rim brake bikes. They're lighter even still. But if you do want to build a climbing bike and you're adamant it must be disc brakes, then I definitely recommend the Big Rock Sotia. I think the normal version is enough for most people, but if you do want to go full weight weenie, then sure, why not get the Team Edition? But yeah, no hesitation to recommend either one. Anyway, you guys let me know in the comments down below, is there still room in the world for bikes like this, just dedicated climbing bikes? For me personally, when all of these do-it-all bikes are starting to look more and more similar, I like to have a bike that just looks a bit different and just kind of does it all like I said. So yeah, Big Rock Sotia, I've been impressed. But yeah, this frame is one of loads of new products we put on the site recently. So if you've not been on pandapodium.cc for a while, head on over to pandapodium.cc and have a look around what we've got on there. And lots of more stuff coming in the next few months as well. October is going to be a very busy month for new products going on the site, so make sure you check it out. And as always, China Cycling out.
This beat goes stupid.
Yeah.